Hey folks, we got another episode on the docket today. Today we have the pleasure of hosting a distinguished gentleman professional in the automotive industry who has amassed an extensive experience as a leader and as service manager. A career that now includes a role as operating partner for Bar Automotive and leadership positions in CDJR and Toyota stores, as well as an independent. He has a deep commitment to advancing automotive excellence and sharing his knowledge and support and growth of professionals across the country, especially as Bar Automotive is a training company and they host a clubhouse every Wednesday that if you are in fixed operations, you must be listening to. There is anywhere from 50 to 100 people in that room every week, topics specifically relevant to the service department, whether you're an independent store or in a dealership. It is a must listen to. I'll make sure to put the link to that clubhouse in the description of this episode, folks. So check it out. Make sure you RSVP. Make sure you RSV every Wednesday because Mr. Barrich himself will come and pull you through the screen if you don't make it. So, folks, it's David Sparks on the Wrench Turners podcast, a show that's about improving the life, well-being, and productivity of mechanics everywhere. And before further ado, let's just get right into it. David, thank you very much for being on the show.
Well, Josh, it is definitely my pleasure, and it's a blessing for me to go ahead and be here today. I have been very, very fortunate in my career to have incredible opportunities that most of them I've earned. Some of them were laid out in front of me, but I've also had a lot of pitfalls that I learned from. And working with the role that I'm in now as a trainer and a coach to technicians and leaders in service across the nation, my goal is to really compress all the mistakes and all the issues that I created in my own career and prevent you from doing them. So that is really a huge opportunity for me. I really wanted to thank you for promoting the clubhouse room that we host. Today was a great example of just getting ultimate leaders from across the country to collaborate and just grow as people. Because for me, if I'm not giving back, then I'm doing a disservice to the industry that treated me so well, and also a disservice to myself. I refuse to do that. So I did want to introduce, who I really am, though, because I'm way more than just a trainer and a coach and a consultant. That's where I am today. A few short years ago, when I still had a longer hair, I got into
You and me both, brother.
I went to college, and I went to college because I was going to be something special. And Mom said, "You know what? You either go to school or you start paying rent." And I said, "I'm going to school." And so I was a detailer. That's how I paid my way through school. I was doing rustproofing and window tinting and all those little ancillary jobs at the store. And I went to school and I got a degree. I got a degree in business management. And I slid in a little side degree in applied mechanical science and didn't tell my parents what I was really doing. And I told Mom after graduation, I'm going to be a technician. Yeah, that's the sound I heard from her too. Dead silence. What are you talking about? No one goes to work in a car dealer unless you are a loser and you have nothing else to do, because that's what the perception was. And I said, Mom, this is my passion.
It still is.
I agree. But this is my passion. I'm not, this isn't what I do. This is who I am. And so I went ahead and I started my career as a technician, and I kept my degree in my back pocket. And I actually grew to become a Ford trans technician. And, I learned the business from the ground level up. And I worked at a dealership in Chicago, and it was that traditional dealer that, I started as a semi-skilled, and then I became an apprentice, and I went through the apprenticeship program. And I was fortunate to have some incredible mentors that were those old school guys that in today's world would probably be in HR every other moment, because
They probably still are going into HR every other moment, to be honest.
for sure. I mean, the first words that I heard were "f bomb this, f bomb that," and you don't
Yep.
know what you're doing. Just do what I tell you, and all of those things. But all joking aside, it was the greatest just foundation that I could have had personally. because
Mm-hmm.
it showed me what the business really could be. And unfortunately, what we see in far too much in today's field, and I got to be exposed to it when I got onto the leadership side of being a service manager and a director, is there's just far too many stores that don't promote the career paths for our guys, whether it be a technician or a service advisor or any aspect of that role. And then you watch these kids come out of trade school, or they come out of wherever they came from into your store, and we grind them up like they're a meat grinder. And I've watched kids.
Now, I'd like to pause right there for a second, because one of the things that I'm really trying to promote to technicians, especially, is that it's not the dealership or shop's responsibility to make you a better technician. And the more we can articulate that to technicians and make them accountable for their own training, the better off they're going to be. Because as we've seen, again, presenting the data from the Wrench Owners Wellness Survey, the more training you have under your belt, the more skills you have under the belt, your ability to generate income for yourself and for your family becomes exponential, right? A level one technician in America, on average, based on my survey, makes 40 grand a year, no more.
Yep.
A level three technician, one that has completed all of the level threes, so none of the super specialized, hyper specialized stuff, not the, the 7, 8 levels deep stuff. I'm talking basically just complete all of the advanced level technical training for your brand. They start at 80
Yep.
grand. And the average I have is 110. It's almost 3 times more than a level one. And most people, especially to some of the service managers I've talked to and service directors and fix ops directors, most technicians can accomplish getting all of your level three done in 4 years or less.
Oh yeah, all day.
So there's really no excuse outside of your drive to get in to get the training done. Now, I do admit that there are some challenges. Some businesses do try to prevent technicians from going to as much schooling as that in a short period of time, because it means they're not making any money during that time while they're away at training, and it costs money to send technicians to training. I understand that. But if you get yourself a level 3 trained technician in 4 years, they go from being able to generate a small amount of revenue for you to a massive amount of revenue for you with less comebacks, which means that you have better opportunities for your warranty customers, getting the job done right, job done the first time. And you now have a happy technician who's making a crap ton of money.
Agreed.
So
But
technicians listening, they're not responsible for your training. You are.
And let me add one piece to that, because I'm going to talk to the technicians that are listening to this from the leadership perspective. There's another key piece why some stores don't push as hard as they could to train. It's fear. It's fear that I'm going to invest $20,000, $30,000, which is what the tangible amount is to take someone from a level 1 to a level 3, and you're going to leave me. So my suggestion to every tech that's going to hear this message is, your attitude is just as important as your aptitude. And that is a huge opportunity for you, is to reinforce that, listen, I'm your guy. I'm going to be that level 3 for you. I'm going to make that person, I'm going to make you more money. I'm going to have less comebacks. I'm going to increase our fix-your right score. But most importantly, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to invest here with myself because you're investing with me. And you do that with your actions as much as with your words. And so I've seen, and I'll say I've been guilty of it as well. I'll prejudge a situation or choose technician A over technician B to go to a class that's been on restriction for a while because one tech or the other has a better attitude day to day. That's 100% on you. And you said it best. It's not on the dealership to train you. It's on the dealership to have a culture of training. But it's on you as the technician. It's on you as the person that wants to develop a career to take the onus and to do it. And the education goes hand in hand with the attitude. So that's a huge part.
Right. And I guess you can almost, you can almost directly correlate the technicians that will hear this message or don't need to hear this message because they're already doing it. If you have the internal drive to get the training, that's attitude. That's the attitude that everybody's looking for. I want the training. I want the training. Like Willie Carter said in a previous episode, be the technician that says, give me all the hard jobs. Send me to training. Let me be that person who fixes the stuff that nobody else can fix. That becomes a foundation for the whole shop, right? That becomes a foundation for the whole shop. We have somebody who is willing and capable with the drive to get it done to make sure our customers are safe. You use that founding principle. Our customers are safe. When the customers get wind of a technician whose only function is to make sure we're safe, fixed right the first time, is getting all the training, guess where they want to go?
Absolutely.
Right? That is your overall. That is not just a culture play. That's a marketing. That's a sales play. That's good for everybody in the store because you become the place where somebody knows I can get my car fixed there.
Well, and take that even a step further for from the technician individual perspective. My guys on my stores, I encourage them to introduce themselves to their customers, whether it's through the video multi-point inspection, whether it's through a business card, classic old school way of attaching it to, so that me as the guest knows that it wasn't a tech at ABC Motors that fixed my car. It was Josh. I want Josh to work on my car every single time because guess what? Nobody else could fix it before, but that son of a gun took whatever time was necessary, and I'm happy. I'm never going anywhere else. You can brand yourself so incredibly easily by taking those small steps. And that's where the techs can really have that opportunity to control their own destiny. And that's where supporting that culture becomes a big deal. Take it another step forward on the training, Josh, is think about this. The technology advancements in the automobiles over the past 10 years is greater than any other industry in the world. If we're not educating ourselves every day, we're falling behind. And as a tech, I don't ever want to fall behind. I am not an oil changer. I'm a trans tech. I'm not going to go ahead and become a brake changer. That's not what this is about for me. So that pride in what we do is just so important. And it all comes back down to investing in ourselves. And that's really what you're doing as a technician. You're investing in yourself and your future.
Exactly. Investing in your future. So whilst we talk about the future, let's take a pause. Let's go back to the beginning. So our first question is always, what got you into automotive? So you were already in automotive, so to speak, doing details and rust proofing and things like that. Once you finished college and you finished your business degree and you finished your mechanical, I forgot the name.
Applied mechanical science.
Applied mechanical science. Once you finished that, was your first foray into full-time work in the shop into the dealership, or what was that? And tell us what that first year into your first dealership was like.
So it was a dealer. It actually was not at a Ford dealer. It was at a General Motors dealer. And a friend of a friend worked at this dealership, knew that I had just gotten out of school, knew what my career path was, and said, hey, come talk to us and see. It was a large General Motors, Isuzu, and RV center just outside of the suburbs of Chicago. And so I went in, applied, and I had my detailing skills, which made me valuable, and I didn't even recognize it because they were about to hire me to become an oil changer / apprentice and have the ability to go ahead and give these other skills of the detailing that they didn't currently have. And so I joined. And I became that oil changer, and I became that entry level person. And the first year, that was eye-opening. I had no idea what it was going to be like. My thought of changing oil or servicing a vehicle was so not what the world really was. Time promises, customers' expectations, what the heck was that? I didn't know what that meant. And so I'm a kid of 23 years old that's working on, somebody's Silverado or somebody's Corvette, and I'm just thinking I'm changing someone's oil. What's the big deal? Or I'm doing a PDI inspection, a pre-delivery, And I'm not thinking that just how valuable they're keeping their, that this investment was to them, and how I was
Hmm.
affecting their lives because I wanted to go outside and talk with my friends during my 3:15 break time because we were
Hmm.
701 union, and that's what we did. And so I just didn't get it. The first 6 months were rough. They really were. They were rough for me because it was such a learning curve of trying to understand how a dealer worked, how the processes worked, where to go for this part or this, or where to find this car parked at, and how that flow worked. And at the
Hmm.
same time, learning how to be a professional. And that's a
Hmm.
skill. And that's a skill that a lot of technicians didn't get the opportunity to be exposed to, or didn't have a mentor. I was fortunate. I had a guy there, like I told you, he was that
Hmm.
F-bomb guy, but he
Hmm.
really showed me how to be a professional, not necessarily with his words, but with his
Hmm.
actions. You come to
Hmm.
work to be efficient. You come to work to make that vehicle better than when it came in. You come to work and you have someone's safety in mind. If you're doing a brake inspection, then that inspection better be done this way. Take the wheel off this way. Hand torque the wheel this way. Why? Not because you get paid differently, not because someone's going to smile at you, but because Mrs. Smith's child is in the back seat and you're not going to be the one that's going to, God forbid, put them in a safety situation. That isn't taught enough. Or, God forbid, you learn
It's absolutely not taught enough. It's absolutely not emphasized enough. And, I've often been criticized about how how ostentatious or verbose or whatever you want to call it in exploding what is, well, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Any mechanic working on any vehicle, it doesn't matter. Cars, boats, planes, trains, doesn't matter. If we don't do our job properly, people can die. There is no way around of saying that in any other capacity. If we don't do our job properly and safely, someone may die. There aren't a lot of professions out there that have a direct correlation with doing your job effectively and people can die. Right? There isn't an administration office anywhere where if they don't do grammar properly on a piece of paper, it's not that's not going to happen. Right? It's not going to happen. Now we're talking about policy. That's a completely different process. We're not going to talk about politics, but functionally speaking, there's not too many people that have that, and it's not expressed and nearly enough. It's not expressed at school at all.
right.
It's not expressed at school. The only thing that's expressed at school in terms of safety is don't hurt yourself on that tool. Right? We can't give you first year as a tool because you might hurt yourself. Well, guess what? If you use that tool improperly, not only might you hurt yourself, you might cause someone to crash out on the road. So it was implicitly supplied to me as my first shop foreman. What you do is important as a technician. What you do is vital. We found that out not too long ago that we were essential, but more importantly, what we do requires the utmost care because we can hurt someone and someone's family. So to that end, we're getting into what you were doing next, and you were having your eyes opened in that first year as an apprentice, learning that being a mechanic is way more than what the world tells you it is until you get into it and learn it. Once you got through that first year, what's been the journey between doing oil changes and details and rust proofing on Corvettes and Silverados to now that has you coaching, training, teaching technicians and service advisors across the country with Bar Automotive?
So for me, and this has been since I was a child, I love to learn. I love to read. That's part of my DNA. And I think the biggest reason why I became a technician was because there was so much to learn from one vehicle to the next, from one system to the next. And when I was given the opportunity to go and I always called it jumping the turnstile, going from being a technician to becoming a service advisor and then a warranty administrator and a dispatcher and ultimately into the leadership role and now into a training and consulting, all of those things all have a very similar trait of education, continuous education and continuous development. And that's really what drove me. And then I got to see what wasn't happening. So we've all had service leaders, managers, whatever title you want to give them, that struggled in communication. They may have had some great traits, but their communication really didn't motivate or really wasn't something that got the job done with the majority of people. And what I
Mm-hmm.
started to do was to start to make a mental list. And I made a mental list of all the things that upset me or that angered me or that didn't motivate me. And I promised myself that when I reached, because I'm driven and I was going to reach the heights that I felt I could do, I would not be that person. And I took that list and I grew it and I grew it and I created a playbook for myself that included everything that I didn't want to do so that I could just go ahead and be me. If I took all the negative traits out of a person in an industry, that person is going to be the Michael Jordan of that or the Kobe Bryant or Joe Montana,
Mm-hmm.
whatever sport or whatever hockey player, Wayne Gretzky, whoever you thought was the best of the best, because they minimized their negative traits and they maximized the things that they were good at. And so that's really what I've tried to do. And now with Bar Automotive it's funny because our nickname is Fixed Ops Doc. And we're a
Mm-hmm.
fixed ops doc because we come in and we don't go ahead and tell you, you need to install this and install this and install this. We diagnose. So I'll come in and I'll evaluate a situation and I bring out that playbook. That playbook said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this didn't work. I've done this before. This didn't work. And here was why. And so now we can, and I can specifically help you create and build new processes with your team, but even more importantly, be able to explain the whys to them. Technicians, perfect example of this because we are trees. I always relate myself as a tree. I am deep rooted in my convictions because I'm a tech. Number one, I don't like to move. I like to go ahead and be stable and know what my day looks like. Number two, change is scary. And most technicians find change to be very scary unless you explain the why. I always look at it like a diagnostic tree process. When I'm diagnosing a vehicle, I have a tree of or my list of tasks that I'm going to follow step by step by step in order to discern the outcome of figuring out what's wrong with the car. Well, it requires me to have the why. I have to know why something is happening the way it is, why I'm evaluating it the way that I am. Well, it's the same thing when you're dealing with leadership. It's the same thing when you're dealing with coaching and counseling. If you don't express the whys to a technician, to an advisor, they're going to give you pushback because their way works in their mind. Why change? How is this beneficial to me? And so now I'm creating stress for the sake of stress. I want to
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and alleviate the stress as much as I can. There is always going to be stress when change happens, but I support the stress with the outcome. Give the outcome first. Hey, Josh,
Mm-hmm.
here's what we're going to do. You know, the flow of the shop and the way the cars come in, we're going to change that. And the reason why we're going to change it is because the parking lot setup is whatever it is. But the benefit to you is, and I've already calculated this, you're going to take about 150 less steps per day to get to a car. Now, if your goal is to take 10,000 steps, I'm going against you, and I'm sorry for that. But if your goal is to be efficient, this is going to save you this many steps, or whatever the situation may be. So now I'm sharing the benefit before I'm sharing the stress. Now you put them
Mm-hmm.
together, and the technicians or advisors or anyone else from that perspective are going to be much more open-minded to whatever's about to happen.
Agreed. So there's a couple of things in there I'd like to touch on. One, I really appreciate you bringing up steps because I've been having a lot of conversations about steps recently because it's an easy metric to follow. Steps. Your goal shouldn't be to take 10,000 steps in a day as a mechanic. Your goal should be taking as few steps as humanly possible.
Absolutely.
And I did a recent little bit of a calculation, and it's going to be published, but functionally speaking, this will probably be published well after that. Steps. You think about 500 steps a day. 500 steps a day At the end of the year, if you can reduce 500 steps a day, it's like an extra $500 in your pocket
Oh,
at the end of the year. Yes, it's only $500, but it's 500. You're basically giving yourself a raise by just being more mindful of your steps by 500 steps in a day. So if everything you do, you treat it with the flat rate mentality of how can I do less steps safely? We want to ensure safety is in there, but how do I take less steps in a day? Whether it's less steps in the repair, less steps in the pulling it apart, less steps putting it back together, less steps, physical steps in a day, you're going to make more money. That's a big one. Two, I'm really happy that you're doing this from and being cognizant of a stress mindset. When you change things, it immediately elicits a stress response. Good, bad, or otherwise, you're immediately eliciting a stress response. So being cognizant of that as a leader is a necessary evil. You must be cognizant of that. Simply making a change because you want to make a change is not always beneficial to the team. Thirdly, one of the things I'd like to introduce to this conversation that we're having is making sure that they understand the why. I find that a why isn't nearly as important or necessary when there's trust. For example, if I go to a team that I have never met before, let's say there's 10 technicians on that team, and I say, we're going to do this XYZ steps. And I tell them why, and I tell them the benefits to them. I've done this personally. And the likelihood that I get buy-in from all of 10 of those team members is slim to none, if not zero. However, if I have built time as a leader over a period of time and genuinely built trust, the likelihood that I get them to buy in before I tell them why is significantly higher. Significantly higher. And I've proven it myself in my own coaching practice. You get them to trust you before you get them to change something. Right? Have buy-in. And as I've said and repeatedly say, and I will continue to say, trust is not necessarily built on giving help. I'm here to help you. I'm here to do this for you. I'm here to support you. Yes, that is part of it. But more trust is built when you ask for help. So as a leader, whether you are a shop foreman, senior technician, or a service manager, etc., when you ask for their help, can you help me do this? And you do it regularly, it gives them an opportunity to perform something that you're asking for them, of them, right? They are seeing you asking for help. However that comes across, whether it's, the fear of incompetence and fear of rejection and things of that nature still come up into play, but you're asking for their help. Once they do that thing, there's an opportunity to praise and to verify and to validate the fact that A, they did the thing successfully, and B, they had the extra effort to do it for you. You've now built trust with them. And then, so you've done all the things that we say as leaders that we should do. You build trust, you build rapport, you build a relationship, you build communication, and now all of that positive deposit, they screw up. You can tell them they screwed up.
absolutely.
Obviously professionally, but now you can tell them they screwed up, and they're going to listen to you because you've built a circle of positive energy before that. So I love all of those little bits in there and how you analyze and how you're looking at things from different perspectives and so forth. So to the next point, what would you say? And because I've actually got a couple more things here, ladies and gentlemen, that I'm doing a little bit more recently, and you're getting a little bit more here. But first, we need to make sure we answer this question. What is your one piece of advice after all of your time in the automotive industry, time as a technician, time as a leader now, and consulting? What's your one piece of advice to technicians to help them be happier, healthier, more productive?
Ooh, one piece. I think that if I was talking to any tech across the nation, and I don't care what level technician they are, is that I would ask them to look at how are they self-reflective? And what I mean by that is it's so easy to blame others for our challenges when there's a lot of opportunities that we can help ourselves. And we've talked about this already a little bit, where the training isn't the dealership's responsibility, it's our responsibility. It's
Mhm.
so much more than that. Our happiness as a person, and in my personal belief, is 100% controllable. And I can speak to this clearly. I have someone in my family who didn't take control and did the ultimate sacrifice. I don't know if sacrifice is even the right term. It's the worst decision a human could possibly make. But he made that decision. He or anyone has the ability to take themselves out of a situation, or more importantly, to help themselves improve their situation. And self-reflecting is the trait that I think that too many people don't hold value to. So I'll give you my own personal example. Every single day, I reflect on my day. I reflect on my day as a father. I reflect on my day as a husband. I reflect on my day as a trainer. I reflect on my day just as a human being. I have my faith in God. I have my faith in what is important to me, and I judge myself every day. Not in a critical way that says, David, you're the worst human being on the face of the planet, but because there has been good and bad that I did every single day. My goal for myself is to improve. Today is the worst day of my life because tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow will be the worst day of my life because the next day will be better. And each day builds upon itself. And I think, especially for technicians or in people in our field, we get so focused on the past. I screwed up this car. I had a bad week. My manager just keeps hammering on me because I'm not flagging enough hours. Now my home life is coming in because I'm bringing this stuff home, and now it's affecting my wife, and now it's affecting the time with my children, and it just snowballs upon itself. So I love to teach not just my coaching clients, but my children the same thing. Deal with a problem when it's this big, not when it's this big. Not when it's so overwhelming that you're going to make the ultimate decision, be it a life changing or ending situation decision, or a career decision, or a relationship decision. Let's deal with it when it's this big. When my wife says something that aggravates the crap out of me, deal with it right now. Not 7 weeks later when I've just added 40 other things that she did to upset me, and now our relationship is on the rocks. As a technician, we have the same thing. We let something go. The advisor took a half an hour from me. Boom, that's in my memory bank now. This advisor is going to F
Mhm.
me every single time, waiting for the next one, waiting for the next one. Don't do that. Stop. Stop your day. Reflect on your day. The things that you can control, go control them professionally. Have the conversation and then let them go. If you're in an environment that continues to replay the same things over and over and over and over again, then you know the answer. Change your
Mhm.
environment. But if you're the
Now I will interject there with a little tidbit here.
Mhm.
And the majority of the technicians that came to me for coaching the last couple of years have all said, I'm in a toxic environment, I have a toxic boss, this job sucks, this store sucks, I want to work for a different brand, I want to make more money, whatever. 100%, if you're coming up against similar walls like David just suggested, where nothing's changing, like his piece of advice where self-reflect, take 90 days and write everything down across 90 days. And every week, at the end of the week, look down at what you've written. Is there anything in there that you have control over that you can change?
Oh,
And after 90 days, which is effectively 12 weeks, if you've reflected on your week and every week you look back on something and the next week you change one thing across those 12 weeks, if nothing about your environment changes after you've changed 12 things in 12 weeks across 90 days, then you need to change your environment absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely. And both David and I would be happy to help you find a better working environment Because then if you've done that, both of us will be able to look at your journal and go, hey, there's the 12 things that you fixed about yourself, because now that 12 things then becomes a foundation of trust from us and to your prospective new employer to say, hey, they just spent the last 90 days trying to change themselves for the better so they can do better for themselves, better for the family, better and more income, which ultimately makes the business more money. The business didn't want to help them out. We now want to help them find a leader and a business that matches that energy.
I couldn't agree more with that. And I love the format of a set timeline of 90 days. I'm very specific like that as well, as you know, Josh. Um, as technicians, you are so incredibly valuable that sometimes I don't necessarily think you understand just your importance and improving yourself and taking these steps to grow to increase your importance even greater. You are absolutely guaranteeing yourself an opportunity, whether it's with one of the two of us or God knows the people that we know. We can help you get to a healthy environment. You have to start with you, though, because one of the things that I've seen too many times is that person that is ready to make that change brings all that baggage with them. And so now the toxicity that you're in almost travels with you. And now you have that same technician telling the same story in 180 days that this place is exactly the same and blah, blah, blah. When in reality, in some cases, it's the same because you brought some of it with you. So the technique that you just gave of fix one per week for 12 weeks and 90 days, if you do that for 52 weeks a year, and that just becomes part of your process, you've got the world. You can do whatever you want to do with it. That's the win.
Yep, and that's and for all of you out there listening and watching, that's the insidious goal. The insidious goal is I get you to do it for 90 days for 12 weeks, and you start to make that an actual habit in your life. That's the insidious goal. Now you know my evil plan.
You're so
My
sneaky,
evil
Josh.
plan. So cool. That's really awesome. I really appreciate it. So here comes the fifth question.
Okay.
Okay, so we've answered all of our normal questions, and I'm really there's so many good pieces of information in there, but we've added a little something new. So I've started to ask guests, and those who are religious at watching and listening know that I've started to ask guests a question to ask the next guest. So the last person that I filmed with, that I recorded with, was a gentleman by the name of TC Coleman.
I know TC.
He's an awesome, awesome leader.
Yes, he is.
So he answered a question from, I believe it was, actually I don't remember who it was exactly. I'll leave that be because the content itself will speak for itself. So TC's question for you is, because he didn't know who he was asking, he was just asking the question. His question to you is, what makes a leader a strong leader?
Well, the timing couldn't be better for that because that was actually the topic of today's clubhouse. What makes a leader, what are the strengths, or how do you define leadership? And I don't necessarily prescribe to what the cookie cutter answer is. And in fact, I tell you, I absolutely don't prescribe to what the cookie cutter answer is, because a leader is so many things. But I honestly believe that the number one priority of a leader in today's world, not 5 years from now, not 10 years ago, is the ability to cater the message in a coaching format that's heard cross-generationally. And what I mean by that is this. Technician A that walks in the door today, entry level like I was when I came right out of school, 23 years old. Technician B is the 20-year level 3 that's been in this business for 20 years and gone through 17 different regime changes and how many different culture changes in the world. If I gave the same message in the exact same way to both of those individuals, one heard one thing, one heard another. One result will be one way, one result will be another, and neither one of them will see me as a positive leader. My responsibility as a strong leader is to take the message, whatever the message I need to present, and then customize it and cater it into a way that you will hear me. And then the next person will hear me. If that means that I have to have 20 individual meetings that I could have done in one, then that's what I have to do. Because having one meeting might be more efficient for my time, but nothing got accomplished. It's about the result, not about the message. The message is obviously important, but the presentation, that's the change. That's the most important thing in my opinion, and I'll go to my grave on this, and I'll be happy to debate it with TC if he'd love to have that conversation, and anyone else, because there is just too many of us that have a playbook in our hand. So this is the message I'm going to put, and I read these words word for word on this piece of paper, and only 6 people out of 30 technicians heard it. Well, that's worthless.
Like I keep saying, brother, like I keep saying, personalization at scale. If you can figure out how to personalize your leadership to every single person you lead, if you can figure out how to personalize that and still be time management sensitive, you are going to do so many great things it's not funny. Because people don't listen to broad spectrum messages for the most part. You get a portion of the population that listens, you get a portion of population that hears, and you get a portion of the population that doesn't give two flying, right? They just don't care. They just could care less about what you're speaking about, even if it's tremendously impactful to their day and tremendously beneficial to their day.
Absolutely.
Right? If it's not personalized to that person in some capacity so they hear and listen to the message, it's a complete waste of your time, like you said. So I really appreciate that. So the follow-up question to that is, what's your question for the next guest?
What's my question for the next guest? Well, I'm going to cater this one to the technicians specifically, because obviously a great many of your listeners are technicians. And I don't think as an industry we have a plan, most have a plan for career development. So that's my question to the next person that you're speaking with. Do you have, it's actually a 2-part question. Number 1, do you have a documented career plan for every person in your department to take them from wherever they're currently at to wherever they want to go? Not where you want them to go, but where they want to go. And number 2, how do you execute it? What is the executable to the plan? Because a plan on paper is worthless if it's not executed. It just is a dream.
Gotcha. Beautiful. Vapor to paper, baby. Vapor to paper.
That's exactly right. And I'm going to call TC after this because I love this question.
Love it. Love it. So, folks, I think that's a great way to end today's episode. So, David, thank you very much for your time, energy, and effort.
I appreciate you. I really do appreciate the opportunity to come on this platform and give my views. More importantly, I hope that someone that listens and hears this message takes something from it and grows a little bit. I will say this. Please search me out on LinkedIn, search me out on Facebook. I'm a resource. This isn't business talking. Yes, I'm a businessman, but this is a person talking. If you need to talk, if you need a sounding post, if you just need an opportunity to go ahead and pick someone's brain, I'm always here to listen. Please, please, please reach out. My contact information, my cell number is on my profiles. I'm not afraid to pick up my phone. Please, please do.
Awesome. We'll make sure to link your LinkedIn in both Spotify and YouTube, so folks, you can check it out. You can check out Bar Automotive. You can check out the Clubhouse. Make sure, again, active resources. Like he said, we're both here to help. So, folks, as we always end the episodes, as we do every time we have an episode, we got to have a quote for the episode. And given the timeline that we are coming into American Thanksgiving, folks, I found something that might resonate with some of you, many of you perhaps. Vegetables are a must in any diet. I suggest carrot cake, zucchini bread, and pumpkin pie. Jim Davis. Remember, folks, negative pushes, positive pulls, and to always clean your toys before you put them away.